Hello and welcome to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler. Today I'm going to talk about how the economic solutions don't ever really benefit us, the people, even when they are specifically attempted to design a solution for us for the future. It benefits us, but not to the same degree as it benefits others, and it's because obviously the system's set up that way. But I thought I'd go through some of the examples and what goes on behind the scenes and how it works. Because, why not? I'm bored. I'm recording this on the Saturday. I was expecting more riots. And so far it's fairly quiet. I mean, the most unexpected thing to wake up to is like, oh, hey, a congresswoman totally just got assassinated. And that the assassin is connected to Tim Walz, which that is its own fucking thing. I thought it was going to be way worse than that. And I didn't expect an assassination, but there totally was. But I expect, as I'm recording this, in a couple hours, it's going to get dark everywhere. So that will most likely be where the action happens, and there's some dust continuing strikes back and forth between the Israelis and the Iranians. Nothing too major other than, like, I saw the stupidest post. And I mean stupid. Like, the post was basically making the claim that one of the places that the Iranians were trying to hit were totally not a civilian population center or an apartment building, but the apartment building was disguised. It was a facade, and underneath was platforms holding F-35s because F-35s are apparently Harrier jump jets and can just do VTOL operations. Fuck, I didn't know that. People are fucking stupid. The amount of bullshit on the internet is just insane some days. Anyways, like, if I get back to the topic of, economic solutions, like, we can clearly look at the solutions of COVID. Oh, we locked people down, we told them they can't go to work unless they're deemed important enough, or we like them or whatever, because, like, stock traders were operating, not at work, but they were operating. They were making bank, by the way. So people can't work. So what's the solution? Well, we'll just deficit spend more, which is just borrowing more money, and just hand out the money to people. Like, there's no problem with that. Productivity's at all-time lows, and we'll just send more money into the system, and people will be able to buy stuff, and the economy will be fine. Well, what happened? There was a certain amount of prices going up due to that, like with consumer inflation, but most of that was a price shock due to, like, it wasn't inflation, it was inflationary. You just had less stuff being made and more demand for it. Like, the easiest example of this would be anything that had a computer chip in it. Like, anything at all. There is a finite supply made in a year. Like, TSMC, and who has 60% of chips made throughout the year, is by TSMC. And, all the other chip makers are expanding production. Fine, great. But you hit a bottleneck where demand outstrips supply to a significant degree. Like, I believe there are still vehicles that are awaiting chips that were made in that COVID period. Like, it's insane. But where did all the money eventually end up going? Well, it went into equity markets. As we can clearly see right now, they're still pumped to high hell. Should be a massive pullback, but we're not getting it yet. We may never get it, or we may not get it, in a couple of years. Probabilities are in flux. But like the solution to ease your pain didn't really, because had we just, I know like the economic distortion of lockdown like is bad, but had you just let that play out without pumping money into the system, you would have gotten a deflationary bust eventually. It would have been painful, but it would not have been as stupid. Like you can go back to 2008. What was the solution? Well, find the biggest, the banks. We have to make sure they don't fail because reasons. We don't want people losing life savings, but that's not how banks fail and how companies fail in general. Like they don't just cease to exist for the most part. Like if a company, especially if it's traded, on a market, it just gets bought for pennies on the dollar. And with banks, the commercial bank liabilities go to a different bank. Like you don't really lose money. Like there is a protection, there's assets, there's receivership, there's like it goes through this whole rigmarole. But instead, they got shit tons of money. Only one guy went to jail, and markets recovered and pumped. And in the meantime, all the traders that work at, other investment banks, hedge funds, or banks in general, bank-like entities and all, they made killings with hedge positions and just reading charts. You had to suffer through it, but they were making bank for the most part. I mean, the ones that were smart, that understood that you always have to hedge if you're a big guy. But, like, you can look at other different solutions, like, specifically here in Canada. You've got the problem with people not saving. So what did they do? They brought in the Canada Pension Fund. And does that benefit you? Yeah, sort of. When you eventually retire, there's going to be money coming to you. It's not a whole hell of a lot. There should be a whole hell of a lot more, with considering how many Canadians are paying in and at what percentage they are paying in. That fund should be one of the biggest funds. Like if it was a private hedge fund at this point, it should be massive if it was, invested correctly. Like if you look at the Ontario Teachers Fund, the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund is one of the largest. If it was a private fund, it would be, I believe it's in the top 10 at peak. So like, you've got BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. I forget the fourth guy. And then like not even at 10, I think it was like 8 or 9 would be the Ontario Pension Fund. Like it's that big. Like it is, I think peak was like $3.1 or $3.3 trillion under management. Think about that. That's ridiculous. But anyways, back to CPP. Well, what does that really do? Well, it does benefit you in a way, but it drives up asset prices because the assets under the money under management, you have to invest it to get a return. So it's going into the equity market instead of, and it's done by government and clearly done by people who don't know how to manage assets to a high level. So it's done piss poorly. So the money's not being effectively used, which means it is then creating an economic distortion that doesn't benefit you. And in the case of, I'm not going to get into specifics of which pension funds, but there is a phenomenon where union pension funds and government pension funds have been used to prop up companies and other asset holders that are extremely close to whatever power structure is in place in a given, say, nation that the fund is connected to. So that doesn't benefit you whatsoever. That benefits some rich asshole that paid off a politician. I will mention this, okay? In Barack Obama's, is it first or second term, he went to a couple unions. They gave him money, and he paid it back with more than interest. So that, or I actually, you know what? I don't remember if he paid it back or not with interest. I know he took the money for his campaign in the legal shenanigans that you can do in the United States to get that money. So another example of this would be either the tax-free savings account or the first-time home buyers account. These are accounts where you can put money tax-free. Well, not tax-free. It's taxed when it's given to you and then you put it in there, but it's put in there. It's tax-free. It's not deferred. Not when you take it out, as long as you use it within their strict policies. So there's two versions of these two accounts. You can have just like a savings account where you put money in and you're just building a fund of money, or you can have a trading account where you, under very strict guidelines, are allowed to buy certain assets and keep them in there, in that account. You can only put in a max amount of money and blah, 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 blah. Now, does this benefit the people of Canada? Because these are Canadian things. Yes, absolutely. But it incentivizes you to keep what is in the banking system a commercial bank liability, right? Which just means you put the money in, that money goes on the bank's asset side of the balance sheet, and however much money you put in, that is owed to you. So that's the liability, hence commercial bank liability. So what this does is it keeps more money in the hands of the bank and incentivizes you, instead of using that money, just to keep it there, which means they have more capital to use to make more money. Or in the case of an investment account, you're propping up, because it's supposed to be long-term investments. That's the objective of these things, so that you can either retire with the tax-free savings account, or I guess we could throw in RRSP in there as well, or the first-time home buyers account. You can buy a house with it. So what that ends up doing is, when you have assets in there, you are, one, driving up asset prices, but you are also giving information to whoever holds that account. They know what you're holding, and then they can hedge positions and make money off of that. It's like with like pension funds, because it's all passive investment, which means you buy and you hold it for the most part. There's a few hedge positions with pensions, but in generally it's buy and hold. That means, all right, if it's buy and hold, you know what people are buying and holding. That is your safe haven asset, if you want to call it that. And then you can hedge on that going bigger. Like, you can buy calls, because you can be like, if you know that, say, a pension fund is putting 10% of their capital, say monthly, into one specific gold ETF, let's say, you can buy calls on that gold ETF the day before they make their purchase, most likely when it's cheap, and you know you're basically placing a bet that it'll go up. So it goes up, you make money. Like, all these devices do, kind of help the people, but it's helping someone else more. And it's clear why it's done in that way and why banks and bank-like entities aren't more heavily regulated. One, politicians are bought and paid for. Obviously, like, that joke has been played out so long. I still think Carlin's joke about it is the best. Robin Williams has his own version of that joke, which is also really fucking funny. But there's also the thing of the language around finance in general is purposefully designed to obfuscate what the fuck is going on and how the system works, to the point where you can talk to most people, even if they have a degree in economics, and they probably have no fucking clue how the underlying mechanics of finance work, or like basically the base layer of the economy works. Like, they have no answer to what the fuck is really going on with, say, the treasury yield curve, why and how it's inverted, and how the central banks have no real control over that. So, like, that's part of the problem, is the system is designed for everybody but an insider to be confused as hell. Like, I know I've said calls and puts. Like, a call is just a bet that your price is going to go up in a certain time frame for the most part, and a put is the direct opposite. The price goes down in a certain time frame. Like, that's all it is. You are buying a contract that lets you buy and sell at a certain price. So, with a call, you're agreeing to buy at today's price and hoping in the future that it goes in the length of the contract, that it goes up in price and you will sell at that new price. And the put is the opposite. You are saying, hey, it's this amount now. I will buy at the new price and sell it to you at the old price, hoping that it goes down in price, so that, say, like, I was looking at the S&P 500 the other day. It was trading just above 6,000. I was looking at puts because I was very much in the belief that one, puts were insanely cheap, and two, everything was basically overbought, which means there's going to be a small percentage pullback at the very least, maybe as high as 10-15%, but most likely a 3% pullback. So that means, had I bought the contract I was looking at, I would have agreed to buy at the new price, which I was looking at that 3%, so that would have been like 5,800 or something. But I would have been selling it at 6,000, so I would have pocketed a couple $100. That's the short of that. It's real simple once you understand what's going on, but nobody takes the time to really explain it, unless you're weird and you go to like Investopedia. Although you have to be somewhat careful, because Investopedia does not understand everything very well. It does confuse certain things and uses loose definitions that have crept in over time, like, say, with the definition of inflation. because inflation is a monetary phenomenon and anything else is incorrect. If you have a shortage of a certain thing and the price goes up, that is not inflation. That is a price shock. Inflation has to do with money supply, specifically money supply versus productivity in reality. It's a complex thing. Everybody makes it simple. It's not. It's complex. Anyways, that's the video for today. I have no idea what I want to do for Tuesday, but you know, I mostly play this by ear. I do have topics, but you know, we'll see. I am recording this on the Saturday, so I like to give myself some time, and Sunday's off. So, anyways, that's the video for today. See you tomorrow with something. And until then, have a great day.